welcome to Absolutely Pickled podcast. I'm Pen.
And I'm Lee.
And we are absolutely pickled.
Absolutely pickled.
We are obviously sporting our usual fabulous Absolutely Pickled merch.
And you know what, Pen, speaking of merch, we have our first ever Absolutely Pickled team out of your hometown in El Segundo, California.
Yes.
So, we would be remiss if we didn't give them a shout out. So thank you to Kerry, Renee, Caroline, Luann, Weber, Finn, Dan, Mike, and Jack the man. Thank you so much for repping our gear, wearing it with pride. Don't forget, make bad line calls, be loud, be obnoxious, and most of all, please win.
I don't know if they can promise the win, but in talking to Kerry, but they're going to do their best, and they will show us up and do us proud. So that's the main thing, and they'll be repping these fabulous shirts.
That's all we can ask for.
Exactly, that's all we can ask for. Okay, well, we're about to get cracking, so we're really excited because coming up we have a fantastic guest that we're going to introduce very shortly. There are a lot of mental issues that we encounter in pickleball.
Why are you looking at me? You said that. I'm feeling slightly attacked.
Yeah, because he's a bit mental. And most of this is just therapy for Lee. But actually, we're hoping that we can answer some questions you might have, and I have, at the rec level as well as at the pro level, of what you get into aside from trying to hit the ball over the net. And so we wanted to invite our guest, and he hopefully is going to be a regular. Depends how well we treat him on the first episode. We'll find out. But anyway, coming up soon, Dr. Simon Marshall. Can't wait to introduce you and have you meet him. We will see you soon. And now it's time to introduce our fabulous guest, my mate and sports psychologist extraordinaire, Dr. Simon Marshall. Welcome, Si.
Well, thank you so much, Pen. But if I'm that good, why are you still so rubbish? How haven't I been able to help you over all these years?
Because I have probably needed hearing aids for a very long time, or my ADHD, and we've talked about this before, means that I hear what you say, but it doesn't stay.
Okay.
Just
put it down to wax build-up.
Wax.
Well, that's right.
That's disgusting. Right. That's disgusting. Do you know what's funny though? My youngest
I thought I'd just set the tone right away.
No, actually, now you've said that, my youngest kid has ADHD like me. He, as a kid, always had really bad earwax. Maybe there's a tie. I don't know. Anyway, Simon, we're so happy to have you. You've obviously just met Lee. You don't really know one another very well, our viewers and our listeners don't know you at all, or at least not on this podcast. They probably know you. So just to give them a bit of background, I'm going to give a little bit, but I would love to hear, if someone says to you, "Give us a little bit of your history," what would you say? So I'm just going to tee it up by saying, Simon Marshall, mate of mine from college. We both then went on to grad school at San Diego State. He then carried on. I then didn't. And he wrote a fabulous book. And Lee, unbeknownst to this, bought the book, read it, loved it. And I mentioned you. And she went, "Wait a minute, I've read that book." And it's...
Oh, my gosh.
What is it called, Lee?
Calm the F down and rise to the occasion.
Exactly. And so she was so excited.
I don't know what the F stands for, though.
No,
it was never made clear.
What the flip? What the fudge?
You'll be amazed at how hard it is to get a redacted word like that on a cover of a book published. It's oh my gosh, we went through some fights.
Did you?
I can't even imagine, yeah.
And in fact, a lot of publishers refused to review it. They just sent it straight back. This is inappropriate. This is, so what can you do?
Well, you're in the right place, mate.
It's a bloody good book.
All we do is have our editor go over all the times that I drop an F-bomb or Lee drops an F-bomb. And we're actually...
So there's no swearing on your podcast. Is that right?
No.
No, you can do whatever you want because the guy will beat us out.
Bollocks to that, we say. Bollocks to that.
Well, come on. If you're not living on the edge that much, if you're having it bleeped out.
Well, that was just for
I
the
know.
reel. It was just for the promo reel, actually. Yeah, we don't
Oh,
care.
okay.
We don't care. We don't care. And actually, my sons who are in their 20s are like, Mum, you have to be authentic, and you swear all the time.
That's right.
So,
There's some really good research out now about the health benefits of swearing.
okay.
Well, there's nothing better than a well-placed fuck in a sentence.
Right. I'm glad that you didn't punctuate that sentence.
I went through
Everybody
it a few
was thought
times
we
in
were
my
going to
head.
be talking
That's
about
right. I know. Oh, those hanging independent clauses.
Yes.
Okay, Psych, give us just
A snapshot.
snapshot, please. Elevator.
Yeah, so
where are you?
I have a sports science undergraduate degree with Penn. Was an athlete like Penn. I wasn't good enough to make a living out of it, and so tried to turn my head into why can't I make a living out of it? It can't simply just because I have zero talent, surely. And so studied sports psychology, did a master's degree in sports psychology. Also in the same department as Penn, and went into a faculty position after that in the States, in California. Spent 15 years as a professor of psychology first at San Diego State and then at UCSD, the medical school in behavioral medicine. That's a mouthful. And then left all of that about 3 or 4 years ago to be a movie and TV screenwriter full time with my wife. So it's been quite the big career change, but I still do some consulting in sports psychology. I still love helping athletes unclog mental toilets. So I'm all for it.
We need help. We've got lots of clogged toilets, both Lee and I've got some questions later in our Dear AP section, which I don't know if you're familiar with, but we'll get there. So we've got some questions for you. But
yeah,
that does remind me that we've talked about the fact that Si wrote a book. He's also, and he won't say this, but he was the screenwriter of All Quiet on the Western Front, which won a BAFTA, was up for an Oscar, got pipped to the post by a very boring movie called Women Talking, which we're two women talking, we get bored of ourselves. So I don't know how that happened. But anyway, we definitely want to have Leslie on as a guest as well. And then the other thing we should mention is that Simon was a very accomplished cyclist. He's downplaying it, but also he's married to Leslie, who is a world champion triathlete. So
that's right. Married into the craziness of professional sport.
Yeah. So
and sold over 100,000 copies of his book.
Yes,
that's right. I know. God, I think my mum's bought about 95,000 of those. So we're doing all right.
I lost my copy. I think I lent it to somebody, and I don't know where it is.
Have you checked under the table? You know, it was wobbly, and it's the perfect height to correct. That could be it.
I have it. I'll look again.
So it doesn't. It's mental stability and also furniture stability.
Yes.
That's exactly right. And the spine is really thick, so you can hit yourself with it too. You can self-flagellate all you like.
Oh well, it's a book of all trades, master of none. All right, let's get straight down to it because we really want to pick your brain because we're so proud that we have managed to get such a big brain on our podcast, and we're so grateful to you. But I don't want to waste any time of your time before getting into it. So here's the first thing. Obviously, Lee, you played on the Pro Tour. It's a whole different level.
Am I still like? Why are you
still? Sorry, playing. Gonna get in trouble for that one. And
put me out to pasture already.
So we're kind of going backwards because usually it's like, you want to get better and you graduate, but we're going from the top down. So the top is Lee. So Lee, if you only had 5 minutes or you're only in an elevator with Dr. Simon Marshall, what are you going to ask him? What's the biggest issue you've come up with or issues mentally that you've gone, fucking hell, I wish I had a sports psychologist to ask this question to? What you got for us?
Well, first I'll hit the red button to stop the elevator.
Okay.
We can call it a lift. There's 3 Brits on this
That's
call.
True.
We can call it a lift.
What do we
but
think?
I gotta go put my glasses on because I need to absorb this all because I need to look intelligent.
Okay.
So the question is twofold. One is like a typical pickleball game gets to 11, right? And you're up 9-3 and you're cruising. and then all of a sudden you take your foot off the gas, you have a mental, you check out the hotel and you go on vacation, and you're like, all of a sudden now they get a couple of points, and then you're like, shit, I've got to get back in. How do I get back in? Or how do I stop myself from mentally checking out? And the other one is playing a team that you shouldn't beat, and you're up 10-8, and you're like, oh, one more point and I've got this. And you get the wibbles, because you get super nervous of like, oh, this is going to be a great upset, this is going to be a win. So it's like almost like on opposite ends of the spectrum. One is we're cruising and I'm going to screw it up, and two is I'm winning a match that is going to be an upset and I'm still going to screw it up. So
yeah, I mean, it's those are both really common things in many sports, in fact, and they're both related. They might look on the face of it to be quite opposites, but they both involve the power of your brain to do some time travel while you're performing, right? You're thinking about the future, the past. You might even be thinking about what you're having for dinner if it's a cruise. And so the moment that you lose focus out of the present on that immediate what's needed from you in the next 30 seconds or so, the next minute or so, you're on a hiding to nothing unless you have practiced being able to manage and wrangle in that wandering mind. But it's usually a mind wandering through either boredom or the opposite, which is an excessive sort of fight or flight response when the pressure's on, that causes it. And so those things really are about centering and staying present. And how do you do that? You can't, obviously, there's no quick fix that I can get you before we get to floor 11. But there are some things that you can certainly do, because without sort of going down a complete rabbit hole now, is that so much of psychology has been influenced in the last 5 years by biology and neuroscience. And so psychology as a performance endeavor, like how do I help my brain be the best version of itself on Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning for 1 hour? The attempts to do that have now gone beyond visualizations and self-talk and talking about confidence and managing physiology. And one of the things that we've learned is that it's almost impossible, just as it is to grow a plant in rotting soil, it's impossible to have a calm head or a head that can make good decisions under pressure when your body is in a state of sort of almost involuntary agitation and stress. And so intercepting that first with some things that calm your biology and nervous system down, so the other self-talky stuff, the mind control, the bringing the mind back to center and stuff, can even work. And so that's a pretty good lesson for most of psychology in sport, is that if there's nothing that you're doing to help your physiology, it's only so what you're saying to yourself in your head, it's an uphill battle, because your brain is desired to win that fight over you, over the other side, over the other voice, 9 times out of 10. So it's a really hard thing to manage. Notice how I didn't really answer the question. No, I just skirted around the outside.
And I couldn't help but
I know, but yeah, I've got like 25 more questions from that. So like, I'm like, wow.
This could take a while.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
but
so
it's fascinating.
Well, I can give you a couple, if it helps, I can give you a couple of examples for each of those examples that you gave, because even though that they are mind wandering, they have quite different physiological underpinnings and what you do about them. So, for example, if you're cruising and you start sort of playing a little bit more cavalier, not necessarily you're bored, but you're just sort of in that you're no longer in the point moment. You're in the end of the game, or what you're going to be doing afterwards, or so on. So usually we need adrenaline and cortisol, we need stress hormones up. We need the fight or flight response to actually go up rather than down, which is the opposite case. And so you can do that with your physiology. I mean, anyone who's even taken a Lamar's breathing class or a Wim Hof breathing class, any breath work you do, which just simply refers to how the pattern that you're controlling your breathing, that focuses on the inhale first, not first, obviously, but the focus on, it's an inhale focused breath strategy, raises adrenaline, raises cortisol, makes you up for something. So this would be like, like 5 or 10 breaths, all right, raises cortisol really quickly. And that's really good if you're trying to get out of bed as well in the morning. If you're a snooze button person, if you do those 10 quick inhale breaths, it raises cortisol. You'll feel as though that you're more ready to get out of bed rather than just talk yourself around it. The opposite is true, however, though, when you're feeling a bit under pressure or you're nervous or you're worried about expectations. Oh my God, this is it. I've only just got one more point. So then we need to focus on the exhale part of the breath, because when you focus on exhaling a longer, more protracted period of that, it does the opposite. It calms our nervous system down, which is then what we can do to then get back in control of our heads. We haven't talked about that part yet. So this is just the physiology. So then the most effective technique that we've discovered now scientifically is called the physiologic sigh breath. It's the quickest way. You might have heard of box breathing or tactical breathing, or these are those. Box breathing is, you know, you're breathing like a box. Basically, you're breathing in for the same amount of time you're holding and breathing out and so on. And it's it's a very good, because it's neither inhale or exhale, it's a bit of both. So it's a kind of, think of it like flossing your teeth. It's a good mental health physiology strategy on a daily basis, but it's not going to help where in one of those two situations. It just can't work quick enough. It's not powerful enough, the kind of neurons that it activates by the inhale or the exhale focus. So the physiologic sigh breath, which we should really be teaching in kindergarten instead of sort of use your words, Jane or Johnny, because this is the one way to calm your nervous system down in 3 to 10 seconds, is you take 2 inhales through your nose, one on top of the other, like that. It's kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
And then you hold it for about that same, and I'll tell you about why we do 2 inhales in a moment. You hold it for about the same amount of time that you did the 2 inhales, and then you breathe out through your mouth for double the length of those 2 periods. So this is what it looks like in practice. Okay. God, have I got nose hair or something? Right, no, okay. You're good. So it's,
and a slow exhale, so it's just a controlled
exhale. It's a controlled, double the length. So if you breathe in through your nose twice for 2 seconds, it's 4 seconds. If you do it in for 4 seconds, it's 8 seconds. So it's a double, and that rather bizarre. It's called a sigh breath, SIGH, because when we sigh,
no, it's called a sigh.
Yeah, no, it's after you. It's named after you.
Yeah, it's not after me. I wish it was.
I thought it was like, oh, you named it after yourself. I'm like,
not at all. It's a known. So animals do it after they've just eaten or had sex. We do it in our sleep. So what happens when you do that particular pattern? It activates 200 neurons at the top of your brain stem, and not 1,000, not 250, 200. We've now studied this. We, the royal we, and that pattern, that activation sends messages to your amygdala and all these parts of your brain that control the fight or flight response, and says to them within 3 to 5 seconds, "It's okay. We've got this." Right? And if you do it twice, it helps, but after 3 times or more, you get no further benefit. So it's Mother Nature's inbuilt strategy to kind of calm what we call our sympathetic nervous system down and activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, the calm focus. So anytime you're going to go in for a big point, anytime you're going to give a big presentation, you're going to go onto stage to give a talk, you're going to ask for a pay, any big moments before you go on, a little private moment, do it in the bathroom, or if you feel self-conscious because you don't want people to see you fucking breathing like you're about to give birth, you would just do it quietly to yourself. And I tell you, I have had so much success with that technique alone. That's just the entryway to do the other work. But some people find that helps, period. They just feel their game comes back. It's really quite remarkable. So the physiologic sigh breath is a great technique.
Is there a optimal inhale to exhale, or can you just inhale for 1 second, exhale for 2, or is it 3 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, Exactly. It's a great question. We don't know that because the few studies that have been done, certainly exploratory, a lot of this is coming out of the Andrew Huberman lab at Stanford, an ophthalmic neuroscience lab. But at the moment, they're suggesting the research based on the studies they've done is about it is about 4 seconds because it's 2 inhales. It's not like, it's like, it's 2 proper in breaths. But whether there's no, exactly. There doesn't seem to be a threshold. The 2 breaths is the significant part, because just like your lungs, have these little alveoli, a little piece of broccoli in them, look like broccoli. And just like party balloons, if you try and blow them up, you're trying to break that surface tension and it finally inflates. It's really hard to begin with. And because of all the environmental pollutants around, and some of us have just got damaged lungs or whatever, we're getting older, not all of your little alveoli inflate on that first breath. So some of them are just kind of deflate. So you're not really getting a great exchange of all of oxygen and carbon dioxide. And so the 2 breaths is a way of just sort of getting far more oxygenation, far more scrubbing of CO2 out of your system, to then do a calming exhale breath to activate the 200 neurons. So yeah, it's I know it's a long-winded answer there, but that's the short of it.
I was the life science major, you were the psych major, and I just had a biology lesson now, so that was amazing.
I know. Well, there you go.
I'm going to go get my glasses in a minute so that I can look as intelligent as you bastards. So that was incredible. I can't even speak right now. All I know is that I know what I'm doing next time I play. Because I need
we should be teaching kids this, right? For exams and people who get test anxiety. It's a really, really helpful strategy, and it's the evidence-based, scientific, fastest known way to calm your sympathetic nervous system down. So
now I realize we talked about my earwax, but did you say that you do this when you wake up? Like, we do this involuntarily anyway?
You do this. So humans do it at night during their sleep, and they also do it under sort of conditions of relief. Like, that's why it's called a sigh. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that's over. Okay. And so it isn't just this sort of like the mental notion of physiological things are happening when you go through that, or sometimes you do the little stutter breath because you're crying. And so it's a system that's already been there, but we just haven't used it, targeted it.
You do, don't you? When you're crying, you go when you kind of, not that I cry.
I don't cry.
That might be something else. If you're really ugly crying, then you might be.
Oh my God, that was
I mean, mind blown. Yeah, no, like this was like, I can't, like, I'm playing in a tournament soon, and I can't wait to start playing around with this on the foot on the gas, trying to keep my foot on the gas and going right.
Exactly,
and the other one
exactly.
Going,
I mean, we've taught it to Formula 1 drivers that do it during laps. When you're going 200 miles an hour, they can do it. So, I mean, you can do it pretty much anywhere. You can do it between points. You can do it anywhere. I think the good thing is to practice it, because it feels a bit unusual and unnatural, and get familiar with the sensations that you get. Some people feel a little bit lightheaded just because of other reasons, and tingling, nothing dangerous. Yeah. And so you try and do it like in a calm environment, so you're not distracted to begin with. So what I tell most people is, for the next sort of couple of days, just do it just a couple of times during the day when you've got a moment from yourself. Just get used to like what it feels like, how it works for you. And then start to bring it into increasingly more stressful situations for yourself. And the more stressful it is, then perhaps do it 2 or maybe 3 times. But when you're practicing it, you can do it once or so.
And then for the one where you're cruising and you mentally check out, right, and you're like, you want to activate the cortisol and get everything going. If that doesn't work, do you recommend like hiring your local policeman to just blue light you real quick?
Yeah, so you need a little jolt, right? You see, so there are some athletes who get into they're often known as angry athletes, or they play angry, or they you know, and that's often their strategy for getting it. They're trying to raise their level of activation, and often getting angry or smashing things or arguing is the way they get into their optimal performance set. So sometimes you trying to calm really agitated people down, it can make them worse, right? Because that's their little zone. So you have to know exactly. So you have to know what works for you specifically if you need calming down, right? But that is a really just a good reset. So anything that you're then going to do, for example, if you really struggle with letting bad points go or unforced errors go, right? Your head's in the past.
Still thinking about it. I'm still thinking
about it. It's a great right. So if you have a between point routine, we all, you know, as your tennis players, you will know all the reset, the readiness, the little things, the action, the bounce, the sweat on the whatever the little routine you've got. You just start with the physiologic side breath, and it makes all that other stuff you do have become like Velcro, much better chance of actually working rather than. So can you imagine if you're trying to tell an athlete in the heat of a competition or a final, oh, just this or just comes in, and they're like a headless chicken already, right? It's just not gonna. It's like looking in the mirror and saying, I'm strong, I'm confident, I'm beautiful, I know I can. Hate to break it to you, I ain't gonna fucking work, right? It doesn't work. So. And we know why physiologically.
Are you telling me that all this time I've been doing the old, you know?
Well, that's different. Now, don't get me started on the Superwoman pose. Now, is slightly that's slightly different. Okay. But I will say that technique with the breath or what have you it's really it's sort of what's the narrowing in on? Coalescing, converting in on what we're now learning is that how you move your body without saying a word, even with a rotting brain and a rotting mindset, how you move your body can change what you think and feel. You reverse engineer the problem. And that has upended psychology because the model was always trickle down, right? I start with uncontrolled thinking, that changes how you feel, and then you act a bit different. But now we know that works, but you can do the opposite, the exact opposite as well. If you, for example, there's quite a few studies now with runners on smiling as a pain tolerance strategy. So when you're in agony and you're in pain, runners have done this, marathoners, and you start smiling, or you even start, and you're not smiling inside, you're thinking this sucks, I hate this, I'm never doing this again, but you're fake smiling it. Fake smiling works, right? And they've done studies. What's really weird is that when I ask you to hold a pencil above your top lip like this, the studies, yeah, exactly, pen. And now I want you to smile. It's really hard, right? Yes. So I can think smiley thoughts, but no amount, the face muscles can't work in that way. And we found that you don't get that same benefit in neuromodulators in the brain changing. Even though I want to smile, if I physically stop my face from doing that, it doesn't work. So forcing yourself to smile, even it's a forced smile, really goes a long way to changing can be the starting point, I should say, for changing mindset. So there's lots of different things you can do with your body to start getting into changing mindset.
Whitwell, I want to see that beautiful smile next tournament.
That's right. You can.
I'm going to
go get the police car to set the alarms off because I'm always telling her how good her smile is. And I think now I'm going to say this though. I think you're on. Well, here's the trouble. I know personally, and mainly through tennis, because you can't throw your racket as much in the pickleball because you'll break it. But I was sometimes an angry player, and I found that it helped me. It was like a release valve for me. Mm-hmm. So I didn't necessarily mind. My mother did, but I didn't necessarily mind when I kind of blew up a bit because I knew that I'd feel better afterwards and come down a bit. And I was always remember again, basic sports psychology. The peak performance curve, and you get to arousal here, but if you go up there, you're going to blow up, and then you have to get back down there. So that was always the only thing I remembered from undergrad in sports psych, because I really wasn't paying attention. You were. That was why I always sort of forgave myself for blowing up, but I kind of wished I didn't, and I don't know. And I was always proud of people, or like envious of people that didn't, and that were just completely calm and cool and
Well, it's interesting because often you have coaches or parents come with that problem of the athletes don't come say, I'm really angry and aggressive and I need help, unless they've been told to do that. It's usually someone else telling you, look, they need some help. And the first thing is to say, you know what, the way that you act, the reasons it's there and what it does to your game, great. We need that. It's such a skill. And it's the first time often they feel as though they've given permission, because they're waiting for the scolding or the unprofessional or the inappropriateness, and it's not that. It's just the physiology is right, but the action, how it's coming out, is perhaps not right. So we're just rediverting that into a more productive use of that anger, or whatever you want to call it, passion, and to help. We certainly don't want to take it away. We don't want to turn like a fucking one of those athletes into a sort of this little calm, shrinking violet. That doesn't work. We just need to have a bit more emotional control.
Interesting. God.
Awesome. I mean, no, this is fascinating.
Yeah. Listen, we've got about 10 minutes left on this podcast episode. So I want to jump right in while we have you, Si, with a couple of listeners' questions that both of you can weigh in on. I mean, I always a little bit as well, but I tried to find two, and these are two that are mentally related, I think. So see what you think. Okay. So this is our Dear AP section. People write in, ask us questions. Normally Lee's helping to answer. Today we're lucky enough to have Si there too. Rachel, Dear AP, Rachel from Bemidji, I think it's Bemidji, Minnesota, writes, there's a lady on our team who likes to boss the rest of us around. She dictates how we should all warm up, and when I'm a partner with her in a game, she's continually telling me what to do. It gets really annoying to the point where I don't want to play with her. What should I do? Now, I think
we've all had partners like that.
It's that bossy.
And if you haven't, you're that person.
Yeah, it's that bossy. It's that bossy teammate thing. And what do you do? And some people have. I know this happened to me, and one of the girls on the team was so calm and took her aside and said, listen, I can't do what you're telling me to do. I've just got to play my game and you've got to play yours. So she handled it very maturely. The rest of us are going, fucking bitch, you know, and like, and not happy about it and not addressing it with her and just like looking at her funny. I don't know, but it's that when you get that inner growl side, how do you calm the inner growl if there's nothing you can do because it's coming from somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. If you want me to have a go, or Lee, it's certainly common. I will say that just to roll back a little bit, because there's something going on before that even happens, right? It's that some athletes, just like you talked about the inverted U curve of what the kind of the kind of level of up for it, activation, or whatever you want to call it, arousal that you need to play your best. We all have very different ones, and hers is often sounds to be quite a lot higher. So she probably has a high need for control, probably has limited psychological flexibility, the ability to change based on the demands that are placed on you. And all of those things are strategies subconsciously, she probably doesn't realize it, to manage her own anxiety. So her body is telling her that she's feeling nervous and anxious, and how she decides to cope with it, you get the other end of, right? So that's making everything have a distinct plan and strategy. It's very clear, it's logical, it's like all frontal cortex stuff. And when things start to be a little bit less predictable, or don't go away, or they don't fit in with vibe with how she's doing, it raises the anxiety for her. It makes her feel anxious. So she's likely to then step in and go on and on and on. So if you try and meet somebody like that head on with an equally active nervous system, what are you fucking doing? I've told you I can't, right? It's done. So what you're trying to do to an already anxious person who's giving this illusion of authoritative control. It's all anxiety, right? They're nervous, and just that's how they're showing it.
Oh.
You want to try and talk to them in a way. So what I would do instead, because I'm quite usually a talkative, loud person, I would actually go up to them fairly close and I'd just really lower my voice, and I'd start to talk slow. So when you do this, and I'd just talk to her in a very calm, slow way, so I'm not raising her cortisol, so she can still think logically and receive the information I'm telling you. If she's agitated, no matter what I say, it's just going to be a chimp on chimp fight. So that's not going to win. So you want to talk to them about, but then restate your position, just as that player did, like why this isn't helping you.
Yes.
Avoid at all costs saying, well, they say it as well, and they've got a problem with you. The moment you start dragging other people under the bus with you, they often don't appreciate it, because if their arousal levels require them to be really calm, you've now just elevated them by dragging them into a confrontation. They'll hate you. So only ever make it about you, how it makes you feel, and do it in a fairly calm voice. So that would be my advice.
That's fantastic.
So could you say in a very calm voice, like, you are the weakest link, goodbye?
The reason we're losing isn't
because of you. Right.
It's
right.
not you.
Look in the
We're
mirror.
gonna-
It's not
We're going
me,
to take
it's
this
you.
fantastic advice Simon's given us and completely
Exactly.
up.
I'm going to get a call on Monday from an athlete saying, I got told to calm down sugar tits. Now, hang on a minute. This is not effing fair.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm in prison because I just beat this person up.
That's right.
Okay, so Simon, we've got another second question, and Lee, this actually, again, it's sort of strategic, I think, and it's from your mate, Lee. She has a mate.
Excellent.
First of all, her mate's called Cricket. Now, don't ask me. I'm not even going to go there. Don't know why her name's Cricket. We can find that out in a minute. But Cricket from Denver, Colorado. Did I have that right? I'm not sure I did.
No, Cricket's from Bend, Oregon. But you know,
Bend,
that's
Oregon.
fine.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sure she's been to Denver once.
Yeah, okay. Cricket's from
She
Bend.
knows John Denver.
Lee's mate. Here, her question is specific to, and I completely relate to this. Why do I continuously make the wrong shot choice? I lose patience, keyword Sai, when playing, that results in me making a poor shot selection just to change things up, because, and I completely understand this. Why do I do this? How can I be more consistent? Why is consistency the hardest part of pickleball? So I think it's a patience question.
Yeah, good question, Cricket. So here, based on that limited sort of info, so shot selection.
You got 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes.
Sorry, shot selection is interesting, right? So one is that we know that if you leave it to your in the moment brain to decide what to do, unless you are very, very skilled, you're going to probably make the wrong choice. So shot selection is a factor of habit and practice and routine. So it starts long before you even got to the court about why you're making those choices. What most people do in practice is they don't practice making conscious shot selection decisions under increasing levels of pressure and stress. So often we have games sort of like almost like decisional Jeopardy, where there's a clock and you have to shout out the shot that you're going to do within a certain number of seconds, or you have a forfeit. So you're practicing being able to do that regularly. Now, Cricket alluded to the fact that she does it to keep things up, because she's getting bored or something.
Bored,
I'm not sure.
so,
yeah, so that's an activation level. So I would say, rather than do that, do the 10 or 15 quick, sharp inhale, raise cortisol, raise adrenaline. That will stop your physiology feeling sort of complacent. Raise dopamine, it'll feel you more motivated, and so on. So that would be my little two-pronged answer.
Love it.